Delivery dates for Social Security benefit payments in the 1,400 stimulus check, specifically targeting Social Security recipients, encompassing retirement, disability SSDI, SSI, and RRB. I've gathered all the crucial details you need to know right here in this video. So, folks, without further delay, let's dive in. The most recent stimulus check covered approximately 85% of the populace, totaling around 280 million Americans. The last 3 rounds of stimulus checks were pretty fast when it came to getting the money to people. Especially the second and third rounds, you could see the cash in your Banco Popular account just a week after they approved it. Hey everyone! So, you know how it usually takes about a week for that stimulus check to hit your bank account? Well, today I've got some juicy details about a possible 4th stimulus check that you've gotta hear about. But wait, there's more. We're also diving into the nitty-gritty of the Social Security benefits program. Stick around till the end because I've got a couple of key updates you won't want to miss. Let's dive in. I know money's really tight for a lot of folks, especially those of us on fixed incomes. But hey, I've got your back. I'm here to help you out however I can. So, without wasting any time, let's jump right into all the nitty-gritty details. Congress is buzzing with activity, tackling tons of legislation, and I want to make sure you're up to speed on what's going down. Let's get into it. So, it's definitely a good idea to stay tuned for any big announcements coming from the government or Congress. Now, let's talk about that next stimulus check everyone's buzzing about. Who's gonna get it, what kind it'll be, and why the government's even dishing it out this time around. Plus, we'll dive into how much moolah we might be talking about and when we can expect to see it hit our bank accounts. I've got all the deets lined up for you, so stick around as I break it all down. Alright folks, let's talk about these stimulus checks. So, here's the deal, the Fed checks out how the economy's doing and figures out how much cash it needs to give us a boost. Once they've got it all figured out, they print up the dough and pump it into the economy. But here's the kicker, the Fed's not just doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They know that when people get money, they spend it. And that's exactly what they want cause it's the fastest way to get our economy back on track. So, the whole point of these stimulus checks is to get that cash flowing ASAP. So, here's the deal. The government's aiming to spread out all that stimulus check dough across different parts of the economy like groceries, clothes, and tons more. They figure this'll help the cash flow through the economy, creating a ripple effect of positivity. And you know what, lots of studies have backed this up, showing that pumping money into the economy through stimulus checks is the way to go. So, when the next round of checks rolls in, you can expect to see that cash making its way into all sorts of places, keeping things moving along. So, the government's really stressing the importance of spending that cash on essentials like food, clothes, and whatever else you need. It's a win-win, you're taking care of your own needs and giving the economy a boost at the same time. But what about businesses? Well, when we all got those stimulus checks, we hit up places like Walmart and Target like there was no tomorrow. Suddenly, these stores were wiped clean of inventory in just a few days. So, what do? They're scrambling to restock, calling up their suppliers and ordering more goods to keep up with the demand. It's a bit of a whirlwind, but it's all part of keeping the economy moving. So, it's like a whole chain reaction. Right, you start spending your stimulus cash, then stores sell out, and they gotta restock from their suppliers. It's like a domino effect that just keeps things rolling smoothly. And the cool thing is, it doesn't take much to kickstart this whole process. Once people start spending, you can see the economy light up within just a week or two. That's why stimulus checks are such a big deal. They really get the job done when it comes to boosting the economy. They're like the MVPs of economic stimulation, no doubt about it. So, the deal with these stimulus checks is that they don't take long to hit your account, but man, do they make a big impact. They're like the jumpstart your economy needs when things are feeling sluggish. I hope this gives you a good picture of how the whole business cycle works and why these checks are so important. Now, let's talk about what kind of check we might be looking at this time around. It's a bit easier to predict this time, I think. It'll probably be similar to the last one, maybe around 1,400, 1,200, 2,000, or who knows, maybe even 1,600. But hey, the amount could change depending on a bunch of factors like who's eligible and whatnot. If we look at the last few rounds of checks, one thing's pretty clear: eligibility is key. In the first round, folks with an adjusted gross income below $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 for couples got a check for $1,200 per person or $2,400 for couples. In the second round, those thresholds were a bit lower, with individuals under $75,000 and couples under $150,000 getting $600 per person or $1,200 for couples. And in the third round, the income caps were set at $80,000 for individuals and $160,000 for couples, with $1,400 per person or $2,800 for couples. So, if you're flying solo and your income's below $70,000, or if you're part of a couple and you're under $150,000, chances are you'll be eligible for the next check. And you know what's cool? These checks are really meant to help out folks who are struggling financially, especially those with limited income sources like Social Security, SSI, or SSDI. It's all about giving a leg up to those who need it most. Alright, folks, that's the lowdown on stimulus checks. Be sure to keep an eye out for updates, and let's hope those checks start rolling in soon to give our economy the boost it needs. The government's game plan is to pump some life back into the economy by handing out cash to those who are most likely to splash the cash. That's why they're aiming those stimulus checks straight at folks with fixed incomes. They're the ones who are more likely to put that money right back into circulation. But here's the deal: if you give those checks to the well-off crowd with fat bank accounts, chances are they'll just squirrel it away instead of splurging. So, the bottom line is that those on the lower end of the income spectrum are the ones who will likely get the first shot at those stimulus bucks. In the past, the eligibility criteria have usually hovered between $75,000 to $100,000 for individuals and $150,000 to $200,000 for couples filing jointly. But keep in mind, Congress holds all the cards when it comes to setting these rules, and we're still in the dark about what they'll cook up this time around. Based on past trends, though, typically, the government tends to prioritize folks with lower incomes, so it's a good bet that those on fixed incomes will get another shot at a stimulus check if it gets the green light. As for the past rounds, they were pretty speedy with getting the cash out, especially the second and third ones, hitting people's bank accounts within just a week of getting the nod. But hey, let's be real, there were some hiccups along the way, especially with the IRS not having all the info they needed. There were instances in previous rounds of stimulus checks where folks faced delays because the IRS didn't have all the necessary info from Social Security. But here's the deal: if another stimulus check gets the thumbs up, those on fixed incomes should expect to see their checks once the bill becomes law. Typically, it takes about a week for the money to hit your bank account after the president signs off on the bill. So, if another round gets approved, keep an eye on your bank balance. Once the bill is signed, it usually takes about a week or so for the stimulus checks to land in people's bank accounts. When it comes to figuring out exactly when they'll dish out these checks, it's crucial to keep tabs on a bunch of factors. We're talking about keeping an eye on what the Federal Reserve is doing with interest rates, keeping an ear to the ground on job market updates, inflation reports, and stock market trends. Plus, we gotta stay in the loop on all the discussions happening in Congress, like new bills and proposals related to economic conditions and benefits. I'm keeping a super close watch on all of this, listening intently to what the government has to say. Now, you might be wondering, why would the government even bother with these stimulus checks now? Let's tackle an interesting question. Why is the government even talking about these stimulus checks? Well, it all boils down to one thing: they want to give the economy a boost. By handing out money to people, they're hoping to keep businesses afloat and ensure they can keep running smoothly. And hey, history's shown us that this strategy can work wonders. The last time we had stimulus checks, they reached about 85% of the population, which is roughly 280 million Americans. And if another round gets the green light, you can bet your bottom dollar that folks on fixed incomes, like those receiving Social Security retirement benefits, SSDI, SSI, VA benefits, and RRB, will be included. I mean, they've been included in the last 3 rounds, so there's no reason to think they'd be left out this time around. Now, on to the big question: how much can we expect? Well, that's a bit trickier. The next stimulus check could be as much as $2,400, but realistically, it's more likely to fall somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000, depending on various factors like eligibility and whatnot. But hey, let's keep our eyes peeled and see what happens. So, let's talk turkey about how much we might actually get with this next round of stimulus checks. Realistically, we're looking at anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000, depending on a bunch of factors like who's eligible and whatnot. But hey, we'll just have to sit tight and see what gets the thumbs up. Now, here's the scoop: if the economy keeps tanking, there's a pretty good chance we'll see another batch of stimulus checks coming our way. And let's be real, the amount they dish out is gonna depend on just how dire the situation is out there. So, we could be talking anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000. Now, timing-wise, these checks are gonna drop when the economy hits a real rough patch and the government needs to swoop in and lend a helping hand. That's when you know it's go time for those stimulus checks. So, here's the deal: we gotta keep our eyes peeled on all these different signs to figure out when the next round of stimulus checks might hit. Right now, it's a bit of a guessing game cause it all depends on how bad things get with the economy and how the government decides to handle it. Now, when we're talking about those key indicators, we're talking about stuff like the job numbers. Basically, when the economy's tanking, we see folks losing their jobs left and right. But when those job numbers start climbing back up, that's a sign that things are on the upswing. It means businesses are growing, new companies are popping up, and more folks are getting hired. And you know what that means: more people paying taxes, which is good news for everyone. So, bottom line, we gotta keep a close watch on all these economic indicators to see where things are headed. Hey folks, let's talk about what's happening in the job market right now. We're seeing a bit of a shake-up, with high-paying jobs disappearing while lower-paying ones are popping up. Not exactly the best scenario, right? The government's keeping a close eye on this because, let's face it, jobs are the lifeblood of our economy. We need to ensure we're creating sustainable growth by monitoring the job market closely. Now, let's be real here: the economy's not exactly in its prime at the moment. Businesses are shrinking, which means folks are losing their jobs. The unemployment rate is ticking up, albeit not at warp speed, but it's still on the rise. To counter this, the Federal Reserve is taking action by bumping up interest rates. Now, when things start going south, the Federal Reserve steps in with a nifty little trick called quantitative easing, or QE for short. Basically, they're pumping money into the economy to give it a boost. Think of it like a shot in the arm for our financial system. This helps keep prices stable and ensures folks stay employed. Speaking of which, the Federal Reserve's been at it for years, churning out about $120 billion every month. Yep, you read that right. They're basically hitting a few buttons on their computers and, ta-da, new money magically appears. It's a pretty slick move, wouldn't you say? Alright, let's break it down. When the economy takes a hit and starts shrinking, the Federal Reserve kicks into gear and starts printing loads of cash, hundreds of billions of dollars, to be precise. This money gets pumped into various parts of the economy, like businesses, folks who are out of work, and even regular people, often in the form of stimulus checks or other types of financial aid. It's like a big oil loop. Money gets printed, handed out, and then spent, keeping the whole system going. Now, let's talk about the latest scoop on a potential fourth stimulus check. Whether it's gonna be $1,200, $1,400, $1,600, $2,000, or any other amount, here's the deal: as of right now, none of these federal-level stimulus checks have been given the green light by the government or Congress. So, just to clear things up, folks, there's no need to get confused about it. We'll keep you posted if anything changes. Hey there, let's get into it. Alright, when it comes to Social Security payments, SSDI, SSI, and all that jazz, here's the lowdown. Usually, SSI recipients get their payments on the first of the month. But hold up, there's a bit of a twist for October. No SSI payments are hitting the bank on the first. Got it? Instead, you've already snagged your October SSI payment a few days back, on September 29th. So, make sure to mark your calendar for September 29th to catch that payment. Now, for those of you who've been receiving Social Security since before May 97, you'll want to keep an eye out on the 3rd of October. And if your birthday falls between the 1st and the 10th of the month, you're in luck. You'll be getting your payment on October 11th, which happens to be the second Wednesday of the month. Keep those dates in mind, folks. Now, let's talk about the next bunch of beneficiaries. If your birthday falls between the 11th and the 20th of the month, mark October 18th on your calendar because that's when your payments will hit your account. Yep, you heard it right, the third Wednesday of the month is payday for you guys. And last but not least, for those whose birthdays land between the 21st and the end of the month, you'll be getting your Social Security benefits on October 25th. That's the fourth Wednesday of the month, so keep an eye out for it. Hope you found this info helpful, folks. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates. Today, we've got some crucial updates on the fourth stimulus check, specifically focusing on Social Security, including retirement, disability, SSDI, SSI, and railroad benefits. Plus, we'll cover the expected delivery dates for these payments. Let's dive right in. First off, let's talk about the stimulus checks. In the last round, about 85% of the population, which equates to roughly 280 million Americans, received these payments. The distribution of the previous 3 rounds was relatively quick, with many people seeing the funds hit their bank accounts within a week of approval. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty details. When it comes to potential eligibility criteria and the amount of the next stimulus check, there are a few things to consider. Historically, income thresholds have played a significant role. For instance, in previous rounds, individuals with adjusted gross incomes below $75,000 and married couples filing jointly below $150,000 were eligible. However, Congress ultimately determines the rules and eligibility criteria for each stimulus check. But why does the government issue stimulus checks? Well, it's all about stimulating the economy. By distributing funds to those who are most likely to spend it, like low-income fixed-income beneficiaries, the aim is to boost economic activity. When people spend their stimulus money, it circulates throughout the economy, benefiting businesses and individuals alike. Now, let's address the timing of these payments. Typically, once a bill is signed into law, it takes about a week for the stimulus checks to reach people's bank accounts or be deposited into their mailboxes. However, delays can occur, especially if there are issues with information availability to the IRS, like in previous rounds. Moving on, let's touch on the broader economic context. The Federal Reserve plays a crucial role here, especially through measures like quantitative easing, where money is injected into the economy to support growth. The current economic situation, including job market trends and inflation reports, will influence the likelihood and timing of future stimulus checks. Finally, let's not forget about the Social Security benefit schedule. Recipients can expect payments on specific dates based on birth dates, ensuring timely support for those relying on these benefits. That's a wrap for today's update. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more updates. Until next time, no news yet on a fourth stimulus check being approved by the U.S. government. Discusses possibility of a future stimulus check targeted at low-income and fixed-income households, including Social Security recipients SSI, SSDI, retirement, and RRB. Previous stimulus checks highlighted that previous rounds of stimulus checks included Social Security beneficiaries. Briefly mentioned the eligibility criteria for past checks' income thresholds. Emphasized that the purpose of stimulus checks is to stimulate the economy by giving money to those most likely to spend it, which is why low-income beneficiaries are typically targeted. Potential fourth stimulus check mentions the unknown amount of a potential fourth stimulus check, but speculates it could be similar to the third one, 1,400. Income eligibility for a potential fourth check is uncertain, but based on past trends, low-income earners are likely to be included. Delivery of stimulus checks mentions that if a new stimulus check is approved, it typically takes about a week to reach people's bank accounts after the bill is signed into law. Social Security benefit payment dates clarifies that there is no connection between stimulus checks and Social Security benefit payments. Provides details on the schedule for Social Security benefit payments. SSI recipients typically receive payment on the first of the month. Social Security retirement and other beneficiaries, payment schedule is based on birth date. 1st to 10th of the month, payment on the second Wednesday of the month. 11th to 20th of the month, payment on the third Wednesday of the month. 21st to 31st of the month, payment on the fourth Wednesday of the month.